Alright, well I'm going to be continuing in sort of a similar vein to what Dave was talking about previously in dealing with adults. Very specifically, I'm going to be talking about ticket lessons, which is kind of a strange subsection of the whole adult class. Long before the MacGyvers and the James Bonds made improvisation hip, there was Robert Baden-Powell. And while it may not compete in terms of style to his countrymen's shaken, not stirred, Baden-Powell's famous aphorism was so simple and pure as to be contained in only 2 words. Does anybody know what the aphorism is?
Are you ready? No.
Be prepared.
Be prepared.
Thank you. Be prepared. Alright, it's very plain, very simple. This is the motto and the legacy of Lord Robert Baden-Powell, the father of the Boy Scout movement. As those who may have already had the experience can tell you, ticket lesson is a rather unique and sometimes strange beast, and it can be often quite unpredictable in nature. So basically, here's some advice that, again, having taught ticket lessons in adult classes over the years, that I'm hoping to pass on to you. First one, we have History 101. As soon as you receive notice of a lesson, have the school fax or give you a copy of the student's attendance sheet. And particularly the prior teacher list, which is usually taped on the inside of the binder. Right? And it's a list basically saying which days, who taught this student on which days, basically. In addition, ask the managers for specific information, if any, regarding the student. Does the student have specific goals in mind? Is there a predetermined timeline? If neither is true, as is often the case, the student's choice of ticket lesson may simply be to accommodate work or school schedules. As part of this background check, you may even want to contact the previous teacher and just to get a kind of preliminary idea of what the student is like. Next, this is actually quite a big point, and I think it's very easy to lapse into this. So once, twice, 3 times is just plain annoying. Once you have the attendance sheet, and specifically the prior teacher list, pay particular attention as to how many teachers the student has had prior to you. If you're the first teacher, then you have the luxury of doing anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes of sort of getting to know you questions. Why are you studying English? Where do you live? How long have you studied English? Where do you work? Do you like your work? Etc., etc. And this also, of course, depending on the student's level. If it's a very low-level student, then you're probably going to want to keep that shorter because they can probably not answer that many questions. This is a good way to assess the student's ability and will generally allow the student to become more comfortable. If you're the second teacher in line, probably around 10 minutes of getting to know you questions. And if you're the third teacher, probably no more than 5 minutes. After third place, generally dispense with all the getting to know you stuff, and perhaps replace it with a simple, how was your weekend? How was your day? Did you work today? A more sort of casual, natural sort of line of questioning. You may even ask the student if there's anything they'd like to know about you, because it might be the first time you're meeting them, and so have the tables sort of turn and they can become the interviewer, which again is helping them to practice their skills of conversation at the same time learning something about you in return. Next, we're going to move to the next one, which is to free or not to free. This is the question. Is this particular ticket lesson text-based, free conversation, both? Assuming the student uses a textbook, it should be marked on the attendance sheets. Check the classes leading up to yours to figure out the free conversation to textbook ratio and try to stick to that pattern. It'll be a pattern that they're probably comfortable with, assuming they've had at least 2 or 3 classes, and they would have probably already made particular either hints or just straight requests to change that pattern. Oh, I want more free conversation, or I want only textbook, or whatever. So it's pretty safe to say that you can follow that pattern. If the ratio is not clear, simply ask the student, as Dave had mentioned before, just ask the student directly, what do you want to do? You have a 50-minute time slot here. How much of that do you want for free conversation? How much of that do you want for a textbook? And then make clear note of that. Usually at the top in the attendance sheet there are the dates, and there's a space for comments and sort of general information about the student. And make a good point of using like a different color pen or just something so that the next teacher will notice that and then read that piece of information and say, oh, okay, this is what they want. And then they can use that to plan their lessons from then that point on. The next one is Lord Robert's edict, which of course is be prepared. Whether the student uses a textbook or prefers only free conversation, it's important to come prepared. It may sound like common sense, but be sure to take a good look at the last page or pages, study, and familiarize yourself with what you're going to do, as you may not have taught that part of the text before. Check to see if homework was assigned, and if it was, be diligent about checking it. I don't think there's anything more annoying when a teacher assigns homework and then nobody seems to care the next time that they've done this homework, which a lot of those students probably will have actually made the effort to do so. Students do appreciate this level of attentiveness. In the event that it's a free conversation only class, chances are they will probably be of a mid to high level, hopefully. So come ready with any sort of articles or any kind of activities that are for higher level adults, just in case topics of conversation run dry. Because again, there's a certain point when some students are very, very talkative. Actually, at the moment, myself and actually one of the teachers here, we share a ticket lesson student, and she's very happy to talk about the same things with both of us. And that's fine. I mean, if she wants to talk about it, then great, I'm happy to let her. But at the same time, you can sort of sense, and that's a big part of ticket lessons and adult lessons in general, is sensing where that student's at. Are they ready to do book work, or do they have a lot to talk about? Some students actually want you to be more interactive with them. I mean, we always hear about our student talk time to teacher talk time ratio, and usually, yes, it is a good sort of rule of thumb to keep the student talk time higher than the teachers, but occasionally you'll have some students that they really want that sort of input from you, and you really have to sort of draw for it. It's not that they're not responsive, it's just that maybe they don't have a lot going on in their life, They go to work, they come home, they don't really have many hobbies or whatever, so it's like, what do you talk about? So you have to start, including things from your own life to talk about, basically. Do not just take a cursory glance at the attendance sheet 5 minutes before the class starts. The lack of preparation will definitely show. Considering the nature and the higher cost of ticket lessons, it's more important than ever to make sure that we use the students' time in the best way possible. Now, of course, there's always going to be the times when you will get ticket lessons, sometimes at the last minute, sometimes the day you walk into the school, somebody says, oh, you have a ticket lesson today. There's not really much you can do about that except try to be as prepared as you can. And I think nobody can sort of, fault you for anything like that. The last one